Hello, Steve White, Steve White 89. Sorry for my voice. I don't know what happened to it, and I've been making a lot of videos as well. I've sort of been doing this big movie marathon. I'm a movie lover. I watched, I studied film, so I watched a lot of film, studied cinema and media, and I watched a lot of films, and I've accumulated a huge library of DVDs, and I've sort of been just putting them all off and not watching them because it's just saving them for later. And I sort of realised you might die tomorrow and there's no later. So I'm sort of doing this before I die marathon and trying to get through all the sort of movies that I've amassed over the years and all the classics that I've watched that I want to watch again. And I've been very narrow-minded in some ways where in the past I was very much like I'm a Madonna fan, so I was only paying attention to Madonna. And I was a Star Trek fan, so I was only sort of watching Star Trek. And I was a Marilyn Monroe fan, so I didn't like Doris Day or other actors who sort of were compared to them. And then I sort of pulled my head out one day and started looking at other people and other shows and other movies and stuff. And I ended up with a bunch of Doris Day movies. And I sort of thought, well, you have to have a Doris Day day and watch all the Doris Day movies. Now, I watched Midnight Lace first because it was a thriller and I was watching a bunch of thrillers with sort of classic sort of screen, divas like, Lana Turner and Doris Day. So I watched Midnight Lace with her. And then I sort of did the romantic comedy day and I watched Pillow Talk, Move Over Darling, and Lover Come Back, which was sort of Pillow Talk and Lover Come Back are really sort of the same formula. They sort of did Pillow Talk and it was really great. So then they just were like, well, let's just do that again. So they basically just did the same film again called, I keep forgetting the name of this film, Lover Come Back. And they were both with Rock Hudson, of course, and Doris Day, and also the best friend of Rock Hudson was played by the same actor whose name I'm blanking on. But it was good. The formula worked. That's why they did it twice. And it's fascinating to watch Rock Hudson playing this straight character, knowing that he's gay, and seeing them even play on it once or twice in the film, which is kind of fascinating. I'm thinking, did they know and they were playing on that, or did that just happen totally coincidentally? I'm kind of fascinated. I have to work that out. But basically, Doris Day plays the long-suffering woman who is sharing a party line with a party boy who's always on the phone because apparently in the city back in the day when they didn't have enough phone lines when they're putting them all in, you had to share the line with some other people. And she can never get the phone to herself. And eventually this guy stumbles across her in the real world and decides to pretend to be someone else just to mess with her because they hate each other. And eventually he falls in love with her. And eventually she works out who he is. And fortunately she falls in love with him, so it's all good. But they play that enemies who fall in love, and they play it really well. And that's why they repeated the formula in the second film. In the second film, she plays a ad exec who is frustrated by this playboy who keeps bending the rules and getting away with it. And eventually he does the same thing. He pretends to be someone else to get back at her, and she falls in love with this character that he's created, and eventually he has to, let her know who he is because he's fallen in love with her, and, there's some resistance, but eventually they end up together, and that's sort of the formula they go with. And the weirdest thing is they create a product called VIP, which doesn't exist, and they market it, and then they have to actually create the actual product, and it's interesting. It's not as good as Pillow Talk. Pillow Talk is wonderful. But this is the same formula. It works for a reason. It does work. But the next film, Move Over Darling, I just watched because as a Marilyn Monroe fan, it originally started off as Something's Got to Give, which was the film she never finished. She died before she finished it. And I've seen the start of this film. The opening scenes were eventually edited into a film of what was completed. And I've seen these scenes and this start of this film so many times. I've always wanted to know how it ended. So I always was fascinated to find out that they did actually make the film again called Move Over Darling, because originally based on the film with Irene Dunne and Cary Grant called My Favourite Wife. And they even mentioned that in the film, sort of film within a film talking about, well, films aren't realistic. This is real life. And they're actually, the film remake of that film that they're talking about in the film. But you get to basically see how it played out, and I always just want to see how that film ended, how the characters, what happened, did they get back together, how that worked. Now, the only difference I can really see in this film is they add Thelma Ritter as the mother-in-law, who I don't think was in the first film, and she really makes a difference. The Bianca character is you can sort of understand how he ended up with the Bianca character with Sid Cerise in the Marilyn version, because she's so hot. But this version, she's just annoying, and she ends up with a psychiatrist. And the guy that she was stuck on the island with for 5 years, because basically Marilyn's character originally got stuck at sea for 5 years and comes back just in time to see her husband declare her dead and marry another woman. And the guy was a playboy that she had to fight off the whole time, and they end up getting back together once they declare that she's there, alive. The other marriage is void, and then she ends up going back ends up with a psychiatrist, so they're free to get back together. And it's got a happy ending, and I wish Marilyn had that happy ending and got to play the mother with the children and everything. But it was just nice to see. I just always wanted to see how it ended. And Doris was, good as ever. So I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe.